Amber Roberts relies on the bus to take her the 18 miles from her home in Bournemouth to Lincoln for work. But this week's fares went up by nearly 40p, blamed on government cuts and fuel costs. But for Amber it means nearly a quarter of the wage she earns at this solicitor's now goes on transport costs.
It's frustrating to think that if the bus fares carry on rising, it might come to a point where there's just no point. There's no incentive for me to carry on working. It would be easier for me not to, which isn't what I want to do.
It may be green and pleasant, but rural communities are crying out for help.
But if we want our villages to be thriving communities with young people, young families, primary schools in them, we've really got to look at issues like transport, housing and affordable childcare in rural areas too.
But some in the countryside feel they're losing out at the expense of urban areas. If you live in the East Riding of Yorkshire or Lincolnshire, the most recent figures show the average amount of government money spent per head is around £300. But in Hull, that figure's almost double at around £600. And people living in the countryside need to earn over £1,000 a year more than their urban counterparts to afford the same standard of living.
Here in the village of Scamblesby near Horncastle, there's no bus route and the local post office has been closed for years. And it's a similar story for many rural communities. Disappearing services and limited transport mean it's more and more difficult for people to live in the countryside.
Urban areas often benefit from the fact that commercial bus services can run at a profit without subsidies from the local authority. However, that's not often the case in rural areas, so actually we focus probably more on the rural areas.
But Amber's worried if transport costs continue to rise, she could be faced with a tough choice to quit her job or move to the city. Sarah Gogger, BBC Look North, Lincoln.